What's up, homegirls? ¿Qué onda, morras? Buenos días, tardes, o noches, since I don't know when you're listening to this. I hope your day is going good, or at least better than yesterday. Welcome to Te Crees Muy Muy, the podcast para las homegirls who are healing, growing, and figuring life out, sin plan, con flow. I'm your host, aka your Chicana homegirl from Cali, Stephanie, and as always, muchísimas gracias for pressing play and hanging out with me. And your reminder of the day, morra, el tren no se fue, tú vales oro, no migajas. Agárrate las pestañas y vámonos. Now, let's get into it. What's up, homegirls? Welcome back to Te Crees Muy Muy podcast. This is Stephanie, your host. Welcome to episode 27. Before I get started, y'all, I know this episode is late. It was supposed to drop on Monday, but you know what? Life has been lifing for me these last couple of months. Y pues here we are. I'm going to edit it and then upload it, and yeah. So, como siempre, thank you for stopping by and taking the time out of your busy ass day to listen to this. If you're not following the page yet, do me a favor, arráncate, córrele, pélale, and go to TikTok and follow the page, and also an IG. And I know I've said this in a couple of episodes, que tengo bien abandonado the Instagram, pero I decided that I'm going to focus on it a little bit more, okay? So, thank you so much, and let me go ahead and get started. Quick disclaimer before I dive in. This episode is going to be about Catholicism and the perspective as a First Gen Chicana. And it's going to be a roller coaster of topics. I can't do a deep dive, or si no, it's going to have hella episodes, meaning like a part 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know if people are going to even care that I did so many. I mean, I can. And like I had said at the beginning when I first started recording these episodes that I had hella topics that I wanted to talk about, I still want to talk to a Catholic priest, like bring him on, pero no, I haven't done that yet. I haven't reached out to anybody. I think I might soon, but that's a story for like another day. Also, I could not figure out how to put them in order, like the topics, so it could kind of flow easily. So I'm just going to jump into it. Like I said, this is my perspective as a First Gen Chicana who I practice, and I'm nowhere near perfect when it comes to my relationship with God. I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form. The experiences, the questions, the doubt, the fear, the anger, the peace, the confusion, the guilt, son todas mías. But I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who's going through this. I'm coming from a place of honesty, rawness, and being willing to be wrong, to be heard, and maybe teach something to y'all, or maybe not, and it's all good in the hood. We will see. So, vámonos. This is how I got here. I was born and raised Catholic, like majority of First Gen Latinos in the US. Majority, not all, because I don't want to stereotype either, but majority, you know, were Catholic or are Catholic, whether they practice it or not. Newsflash, you cannot un-Catholic yourself. I was baptized, I did my communion, and that was pretty much it. That's where my story kind of took a pause. From the time I was like, let's just say 12 or 13, I was not practicing at all. No mass, no communion, no confession. And real talk, what brought me back to God and Catholicism was getting sick, like maybe a month or two after I turned 30, which was in 2017. I know some of you are going to be like, dude, you call yourself Catholic, y eres bien hocicona, which is true. I am gonna lie to kick it. I do cuss, and it's funny because my mom says, con esa boca alabas a Dios. It's true, and I'm gonna keep it real too. I haven't been doing anything to kind of like actively work on it, not even to reduce it. It is what it is. I'm going to start, but that's just me being 100% with you guys and being honest. Y otra cosa, ahí les va. I don't know if I would have came back si no me hubiera enfermado. So there's that too. But I want to be clear also, I never stopped believing and I never stopped praying to God. Not one single day. The first time I came back is because I was scared. I was losing so much weight, you guys, at an alarming rate. When I got sick, I was getting worse. Nadie me estaba ayudando. I wasn't eating, and I was slowly, let's keep it real, I was slowly dying. And I remember one day my mom was like, tienes que ir a misa, tienes que ir a hablar con Dios, entrégale todo, la frustración, los miedos, lo que te está pasando. Él te está esperando. So I was like, okay. So like the next day I went to daily mass. And I remember there that I was crying and I surrendered everything to him. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to die? If I'm going to die, at least let me see my sister get married, etc. And I remember that night, cuando me fue a dormir, tuve un sueño con la Virgen de Guadalupe, y'all. I remember that it was really brief, but I remember like the background of my dream was black. Y se me apareció and she hugged me. Like we hugged for like a good 5 seconds. And then she like slowly faded y se fue. And then I woke up and that was like the end of it. So I was like, okay. So eventually that's where my journey begins. And I came back obviously with a lot of questions. And I will say this, that I have the privilege and I am fortunate that I have access to deacons, both white and Mexican priests, because real talk, there is a difference. And I have many, many questions. So ahí les va the first one. We were poorly catechized, and that is not entirely our fault. A lot of us were poorly catechized, and honestly, that's no one's fault. Looking back, it was volunteers teaching us at Sunday school, La Doctrina. I don't know how much they were actually taught to teach us. How selfless of them to want to pass on what they know. But in all honesty, I did not really retain much until I went through my confirmation class as an older adult. Nobody explained the why behind the teachings. It was just follow the rules and that's it. We were not taught to question and ask why. And that's in a way kind of where like the error starts, and tone and style matter to how you were taught things. You cannot tell a teenager or a young adult que agarre la onda and not to have sex before marriage, and then they ask why, and the answer is God doesn't like it and you're gonna go to hell. That doesn't do anything except teach kids that sex is bad and shameful. That is where so much poor education among us comes from. Like the whole do not use a tampon or you're gonna lose your virginity. Que mamada. But at the time, that was our reality. And in my opinion, that is also why there are married women who today have a fucked up view of sex. They were taught that sex is bad, and that's literally it. Then the parents think that if they talk to their daughters about sex, it will encourage them to do it. Then something happens and it becomes the mom's fault for not teaching her daughter, when in reality, she was just doing what she was taught since she was young. And let me go back for a second, because no me explique bien when it comes to married women and sex. Because think about it, y'all. Especially for the women, and I'm not judging, there's really no judgment, but think big picture. You're told all your life, right, que don't have sex before you get married, que porque si no you're going to go to hell, etc. Or if you can, remain a virgin until you get married. So you have this view about sex, because obviously sex education is really limited, o aprendiste from the schools taught you, or your homegirls te dicen, if you're even fortunate to have a lot of friends, or it depends too how open or not open your parents are, because también I don't want a stereotype, right? And then, okay, you're saving yourself for marriage, pero tienes this fucked up view about sex, like, okay, it's like, no preguntes, it's like really sacred, but at the same time you have to be hush hush, because remember, y'all, que también it's frowned upon to masturbate, right? So you don't even know your body or anything like that. So you really think que te vas a casar, and a lot of those ideas are going to go out the window once you get married and you find a man that respects you, that understands whatever, que te espero, lo que sea. Those things are really not going to go out the window. Like, you have to, in a way, unlearn them once you get married, right? So that's why I feel that there's a lot of women que están casadas y que también todavía no tienen I don't want to say correct view of sex, but they don't have a healthy view of sex. Maybe some did, they went to therapy, they worked it out, or maybe ya cuando se casaron, they're like, oh, it's not what I thought it was going to be, blah, blah, but not everybody can say that, right? So there's that. So ahí les va otro topic. Mexican Catholicism versus American. Something I've noticed as a practicing First Gen Chicana is the way Mexican American cultures celebrate their faith, and it's hella different. And yes, both sides have their old school traditional Catholics, and both have their cafeteria Catholics as well. I've noticed that some American priests are more laid back in their homilies. Some read the script, like a script que escriben. Some walk down the aisle. Some are more personal. And it's hard because even though everyone is practicing the same faith, it feels so different depending on where you are. Some parishes feel like, damn, like están bien organizados, some don't. And others feel like, okay, I can actually understand what you just said, estoy agarrando la onda. In general, I feel like Latinos tend to be more traditional and expressive, while white Catholics tend to be more structured and reserved. But that is a generalization and not true across all boards on all sides, if that makes any sense. So yo he mirado la diferencia too. I feel like the Mexicans, like I said, are more like tradicionales in a sense. Sometimes when you're first gen, you're stuck in the middle, and I know some people are going to be like, who cares, just pick I guess you could say the good from each side. Pero a veces it's hard because both sometimes contradict themselves, even though we follow the same faith, the same religion, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. So ahí les va otra cosa. Cafeteria Catholics. I mentioned cafeteria Catholics, basically someone who picks and chooses what they want to follow. And honestly, it's partly because of being poorly catechized, and yes, partly a little bit of laziness. And I say that with love because Google is free 99, y'all, and we do have access to information. But I also fully understand that not everyone has access to a priest, to a deacon, or spiritual direction that they can go to when they have questions. That is real. What I will say though is that you cannot complain about not hearing or understanding God and you don't have a relationship with him. Reading the Bible once a month, if you remember, is not a relationship. And I say that as someone who actively is working to improve my relationship with God every single day. And it's a daily choice, right? Some people I've seen, and you don't even have to be Catholic, like lo que sea, they complain, oh, no escucho la voz, so God is not present in my life. How can you say that cuando no lo conoces, cuando no haces el intento? You know, I don't know. That's just the way I see it. Ahí les va otra cosa. Abortion. Sheesh. Okay, ahí les va. I understand both sides. I really do. As a practicing Catholic, technically I'm supposed to be pro-life. No, like in between, right? But I also feel like a lot of Catholics, not all, but I feel like a lot are actually pro-birth. They're not pro-life. Where are all the marches for all the kids who are currently being held in the immigration centers? And look, I am 100% open to being wrong on that. Maybe they are marches and I'm just not aware. I have to be responsible too of what I say, right? But how do you tell a woman who was raped to keep the baby, give birth, and give it up for adoption si no lo quiere? That's 3 traumas right there. Where is the support for her through all that? I have seen, at least in some parishes, a sign that says if you just found out that you're pregnant and you don't know what to do, call this number. Maybe it is someone trying to convince her to keep it, maybe not. Maybe they're just trying to see where she is mentally. That counts for something, I think. But I think we could do more. Where's the support for the single women in their 30s and their 60s? There is no support in the church for women in their 30s to up to 60s who never got married and don't have kids. You see support for teenagers, the youth group, married couples, people who are grieving, senior citizens, women's groups, but those tend to skew older. I remember going to a retiro called Cursillo, and I was in my 30s, and I was the youngest person there by a lot. I think it was like 31 or 32. Everyone else there was talking about their kids and their grandkids, and I could not relate at all. One woman told me that she actually felt for me because when she went to her first cursillo, she was the youngest there too. She was my age, and now she was like in her late 50s. You want women to serve in the church too, but there's really no space. No hacen espacio for those women. Otra cosa, religious trauma is real. Religious trauma is real, and I don't think it gets talked about it enough. My heart goes out to anyone who was abused by a priest or anyone else in the Catholic Church. It's messed up and it should never have happened. These cases came out slowly over time, and no amount of money can take away those victims, what those victims went through. I have to acknowledge it because it is real and it needs to be talked about more. I honestly do not know enough about the seminary process or what the priests or how priests are accepted or rejected into religious life to speak on it in detail. What I will say is that system needs to be tightened up and improved. That is as clear to me as it is, or as I should say, that is clear to me. Why people leave and why I understand it. I understand why people leave the Catholic Church and just do their own thing. I have seen the bad and the ugly, and it's unfortunate. But I also have seen and experienced the good that came from it. I do speak from a place of privilege. I have access to priests, deacons, and intercessory prayer groups, los grupos de intercesión. If I have a question or if I need prayer, like people que oren por mí, I know where to go. Not everybody can say that, and I don't take that for granted. A lot of First Gen Latinos living in the U.S. who used to practice say things like, I was raised Catholic, but not anymore. It is the colonizer's religion. The Aztecs used to pray to their own gods. Why would you still practice something that hurt so many people? Religion was made by white men. I would rather just pray to God on my own. Too many wars and violence have been committed in the name of religion. If you need religion to tell you whether you're a good or bad person, you have bigger issues. Just don't be a shitty person and do good in life and do what you want while not harming other people. This is honestly one of the hardest parts about being First Gen and Catholic, because you start learning the history and you realize religion was sometimes used as a tool to colonization, violence, control, and shame. That hurts to sit with. So I completely understand why some people walk away from it. Sometimes rejecting religion feels like a reclaiming your identity and reconnecting with your ancestors whose beliefs were erased. But for me, faith is more complicated than that. I have personally seen the power of prayer in my own life, and I have met some incredible, selfless people through faith, especially strong Mexican women who took the time to listen to me, pray for me, and still do. When I had questions or doubts, they did not shame me or pressure me. They were sincere, patient, and gentle with me in a way that honestly impacted me deeply. And I have access to them here where I live and in Mexico as well. And if I'm being real, I don't even know if in my own selfishness, I would have that same level of patience and kindness towards someone questioning everything. So no, I do not ignore the harm religion has done and caused, but I also cannot ignore the genuine love, guidance, comfort, and humanity I have personally experienced through people living out their faith in a beautiful way. I think two truths can exist at the same time. Religion has hurt people, and faith can still genuinely help people too. My confirmation and surrendering the marriage thing. I did my confirmation, I think I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago, and I chose the Saint Difna as my confirmation saint. She is the patron saint of mental health. And I will be honest, part of the reason I was able to reach radical acceptance about where I am in my life, especially romantically, is because I surrendered it to God. I prayed novenas, and it completely changed how I see things. And the crazy part is I think if I never get married, I will be okay. Before, I could not say that. I used to be really sad about it. Hitting my 40s soon, not married, not dating, I felt like a failure in that aspect. I never really asked God to send me a man because in my personal opinion, lo que yo pienso for me, not for anybody else, and there's no judgment for women who pray que Dios les mande, I guess you could say, like a partner. I feel I was treating him like a genie. Then one time at adoration, I finally just told him honestly how I was feeling about marriage and kids. I told him that I did not want to be a religious sister or a nun. I didn't have it in me. I left it there. The next day I fasted. Then later that afternoon, I was reading the Bible and certain verses just came to me, and God actually, in all honesty, showed me that I was not ready for marriage. He showed me what it actually takes, the real sacrifice, the things people don't talk about. And right after I finished reading, I finished and I went to go clean the kitchen. And I remember that I was looking on YouTube for music. So le piqué a the YouTube app, and 3 Catholic videos about marriage and what it takes and what the church teaches about it came up on my feed. And I was like, oh, snap. Okay. And I want to say this because part of the reason that I started Te Crees Muy Muy, I always talk about the power of choice and perspective. And I know some of you guys are going to be like, well, I don't have to be Catholic to come to that conclusion. And that's fair. And that's very true. But for me, this is what happened. Cuando yo, and the reason that I said it, that part right now about like the sisters and becoming like a sister or a nun, is because usually they say there's this three states of life, I guess you could say, is like for women, te casas si tienes chamacos, religious life, a sister or a nun, or que you just remain single forever, like no te casas, you dedicate yourself to like God in a sense of like you build community, you work, just una mujer que no se casó, but they're not playing house either or anything like that, they're not dating. And I remember before, because here's the thing, y'all, before I got sick, I did not believe in marriage. I was like, it's just a piece of paper. I'm just gonna, si me caso, I'm gonna meet a dude, right? We'll just live together and it is what it is. But I don't think I believe in marriage, y'all, because I was like, I don't want to say around me in a sense, pero le dije, I've seen people be married for a long time. They look unhappy. And this is me talking in ignorance, not really know what a true marriage takes, right? Y dije, okay, whatever. And then I slowly just stopped believing in marriage. Pasó el tiempo, right? This is like in my teenage years, etc. And then as I started getting older, I never, honestly, y'all, like dating for me has been almost non-existent because it has never been a priority. And then once I started getting older and then ya me enfermé, I was like, oh, snap, I think I do want to get married, because I think que también, since I felt like I was dying, because estaba tan enferma, I was like, dude, I'm not going to be able to experience getting married. I don't really care about the kid part, no offense. But I was like, it's a choice de quitarme whether I can get married or not. I'm going to lose it. Me lo va a quitar because I'm going to die. La vida me lo va a quitar. And then I started to really think about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do want to get married. And then I still didn't focus on getting like dating. I tried dating here or there, even after I got sick, y'all. And it just did not go well. A lot of it, I feel, has to do with my weight. I'm not naive either. Right? But I still, no es que le eche ganas, but I was like, it is what it is. And I told you guys before that I got banned from eHarmony. And then just, oh my gosh, it's just been shenanigans. Now looking back, I was like, dude, it's hella funny now, but in the moment it sucks, right? And then I completely just stopped because I feel like getting sick in a way kind of consumed me. I feel like in a way I lost the spark. I became kind of like a homebody because me afectó tanto my illness, right? Y'all, I used to walk around when I first got sick with una bolsa de plástico, like a little one, because thinking I was gonna like throw up and everything. I did that for a while and stuff. Anyways, that's a story for another day. So pasó el tiempo and I just didn't do anything about it. And that's something that I talked about in therapy. I was like, okay, so am I single because I truly enjoy being single? Or is it a mixture of ya me acostumbré, pues ni modo, y porque me gusta estar sola? Or is it because me acostumbré, no me gusta estar sola, but I'm not doing anything about it? I talked about it for a little bit in therapy, and then I completely shifted. My therapy, y'all, is all over the place. No tengo structure. In the sessions, tengo structure, but for example, okay, let's tackle this and this. It's never really been structured, and that's just how it works for me. Anyways, and then, so let me get back to what I was saying. Sorry, I just went all over the place. And when like I said, this podcast started, is because once I had that aha moment that God truly showed me after fasting, after reading the Bible, after doing novenas and stuff, he truly showed me, y'all, me cayó el 20. And after watching those videos and stuff of like what it truly takes to get married, sustain a relationship, because you're in it for life, right? Especially if you're Catholic. I know there are some like caveats que te puedes divorciar in a sense, but normally it's you're in it for life. And I remember I was just shook. And that's in that moment when I realized that I was like, dude, no estoy ready. And I'm okay with it. But it also brought me so much peace, because the other side of the coin was like, if I don't ever get married, y'all, I'm going to be okay. I'll live a fulfilled life in other ways. Y si me caso, eventually, if that does ever happen, I have a better idea of what it truly takes. And I'm going to say something that it's going to sound like fucked up, and I don't want it to sound like that. Because like I said, I'm talking from a place of privilege, that I have access to like priests and deacons, that if I could talk to them, I have questions de volada, I can talk to them. But obviously I have to check in with them with their time, etc., right? And when I see, y se escucha muy feo decir esto, y'all, pero cuando miro girls online, y cada quien tiene sus deseos, and this is why I try to be careful of how I say it, because I don't want to sound rude or fucked up or like ruthless. Pero cuando miro mujeres online crying que a lo mejor ya nunca se van a poder casar, the kid part, you guys, that is something that I can't really say, because I'm gonna be 40 this coming January. I don't even know, y'all, if I can have kids. I don't even know if mis huevos ya están todos bien scrambles. Nada que ver, because to me that has never been my priority. I've never wanted to be a mom. I don't have a desire for that. Never say never, right? Because watch next year, I'm like, hey guys, I'm pregnant, right? But I'll never say never. I just don't want to be a mom. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I just no me nace. I don't want to. Never say never. I'll say that again, right? Just in case. Anyways, let me go back to this. So when I see girls on social media, everybody has their desires and their dreams of getting married and having kids, or maybe just getting married, or maybe just having kids, not getting married, lo que sea, cada quien su rollo. But when I see especially young girls that are in their early 20s, or when I see other women online que están llorando because they may never get married, or they never picture their life being single, I could relate to that, you guys, because I wanted it for such a long time. And you guys, they would pray for me y me agarraba llorando, because I felt like such a failure. I'm not going to get married, or my gosh. I think that sometimes we tie our worth to that, y nada que ver. And when I see girls online crying about that, my heart goes out to them, because I was once at that place. Pero también a veces, part of me me frustro seeing them, because I want to say, girl, there's so much more to life than just getting married and having kids. How many... And I'm not shitting on anybody who wants that, because I understand. I'm not shitting on anybody who is married. I'm not anti-marriage, and I'm not anti-kids. I'm not. I see sometimes women que están frustradas, who are married and who have kids, or maybe just kids, or maybe just married, y que están frustradas, and they're crying because they feel like their identity is all tied to that they don't have an identity outside marriage, or outside being a mom, or having kids, or lo que sea. So it's like they're crying for the same thing, but opposite, if that makes sense. And that's why I always say the power of choice and perspective. Like, me frustro, like, girl, it's okay, like, and it's hard to, I don't know if I'm making sense, because I don't want to come out sound so judgmental, because look, I'm almost going to be 40, and it took 20 years for me to get there. I want women, you guys, I want you guys to understand también that our moms, and I don't want to stereotype everyone, right? But our moms and our abuelitas and bisabuelitas didn't have the choices and the perspectives and the information that now we have. And I'm not saying that because we have it now that we're better than our grandmas, and no nada que ver. But a lot of them didn't have the choice, y'all. A lot of them didn't have the choice for whatever reason. Life was lifing for them to be able to go to school or do something or whatever that meant. A lot of them, like, esperaron their boyfriends que se iban al norte, how they say, and they came back, se casaron, and, you know, they did the whole long distance, and eventually se las trajeron, and they had kids and whatever. And some of them didn't. Some se iban temporadas, and some of them le calaron. The men didn't like it, and they had all their kids, and then eventually their kids came over here to the States, whatever remix or whatever rollo it looks like. But I just me frustro, but at the same time I feel sad because I don't want y'all to be sad que no tienen un novio, que no están casados, o que no tienen chiquillos, right? Because I know that's such a personal topic, but I want you guys to see that there's more to life than that. And and I don't minimize it because it took a lot of years for me to come to that, like, dude, a lo mejor nunca me caso, and it's okay. And when I came to realize that, y'all, cómo se me quitó ese peso. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't talk to God, if I didn't do those novenas, and if I didn't understand the teachings of my faith. And like I said, I'm not here, you guys, to convince you to go back to Catholicism, porque cada quien tiene su rollo and it's a really personal experience. And I know I keep saying this, I have privilege, but I will say something too. Following God is a really lonely path in a sense, even if you can have like community, because yo no tengo como, I'm going to be honest with y'all, the parish that I go to is older white people. No hay misas en español because there isn't a need that I'm aware of. You don't see like Mexicans go there, or Latinos, I should say. No hay. And a lot of the times when I go to mass, whatever, depending on what service I go to, whether it's the vigil or Saturday, casi no ves, like I don't see other Latinos and stuff. So in that aspect, no tengo apoyo, pero sí es triste sometimes because my sisters, with their relationship with God, whether they have one or not, I can't be like, well, do this and do this and do this, because I will keep it real. Just because I did novenas and just because I was able to release that aspect, my romantic life, to God, doesn't mean that it también te va a pasar. But I'm not saying not to do it either, because like I keep saying, I don't know if any of this is making sense, because maybe some of you guys are going to be like, dude, it's just word salad. You're remixing lo que estás diciendo. But I just wanted to bring that point. Just the power of choice and perspective. And my religion, believe it or not, because I know that Catholics are either, you don't find really people in the middle. You just say they're either anti or they're for it, and that's it. Porque yo también, like I said earlier, yo entiendo el desmadre que se ha hecho with the Catholic Church and stuff. And there's still some teachings that I don't agree with, that I 100% don't understand. Y es algo that I have to work through it. But I choose to do it, y'all. A mí nadie me está forzando to go to mass or anything like that. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that perspective of like the whole romantic life. Because if you guys también think about it, a lot of us who are 30 plus, single, no kids, we are seen as que ya se nos fue el tren. You know? And it's fucked up, but it's just the way that society sees us. Que like ya nadie te va a querer, ya estás bien grande, esto y que el otro. But if anything, I think acceptance of where I'm at really helped too. And who knows, you guys, maybe next year or maybe like mañana I meet a dude and completely different. I'm open to it, but doesn't mean that in my openness I'm desperate either. You know? Because let's keep it real. For all of us who are single, let's keep it real. Nos podemos encontrar un pendejo and just be with someone to be with someone. Yeah, so I don't agree with that. But that's just me. Okay, so anyways, I hope whatever I said made sense, because all of this that I'm rambling was not in the script. Okay, so ahí les va the other one. Priests giving marriage advice when they've never get married. Ooh, I mean, I should say they've never been married. I think this one is one of the most understandable criticisms people make about the Catholic Church. People questioning priests giving marriage advice when they have never been married or have kids. And honestly, I get it. Marriage is hard. Raising kids is hard. Intimacy, communication, finances, sacrifices, those are lived experiences. So when someone asks, how are you going to tell me how to handle my relationship? when you have never even had one or been in one in a long time? That's a fair question. At the same time, the Catholic Church sees priests as spiritual guides, not relationship influencers. They are trained in theology, counseling, scripture, and pastoral care. The idea is that wisdom does not only come from personal experience, and realistically, both things can be true at the same time. A priest can still offer real spiritual insight, while people can also reasonably want advice from someone who has actually lived through marriage, heartbreak, or real family struggle. That does not mean that priests have nothing value to offer. It just means that some people will naturally relate more to someone who has been through those things firsthand. For me, it is not that priests know nothing. I just do not think Catholics should act like this criticism is irrational either. It is valid. Ahí les va. This one's personally for me. Or maybe for other people, you never know. Showing up online, my body, and when other people's opinions become an idol or idolatry. I want to take some time to talk about this. I want to talk about something that comes back to everything we just covered because I think it's important, and I know some of you are going to get it and some of you are not going to think it's that deep, and both of those things are actually valid. As y'all know, obviously, I'm faceless on social media and I'm audio only here for this podcast. And some of y'all who have listened to all the episodes or some of the episodes understand and know why. A big reason for it is my weight. No pun intended on the big part. I have gone through so much with my body because of my illness, being fat, overweight, chubby, whatever you want to call it, and putting myself out there on the internet when we already know it's not the safest place for women, and adding that layer on top of it, being fat, is tough. I'm not saying I'm some big time content creator with a huge following, because I'm not, but I think about the community I'm trying to build for us, for the First Gen Latina daughters, and I think about how the opinions of crusty, musty men I don't even know are the reason why I'm holding back, or part of it, I should say. And that makes me both hella mad and sad at the same time. I have had a really, really small sample of hate coming towards me, because if y'all remembered, I talked about this in one episode, I no me acuerdo cuál, when the whole allegations came out about Cesar Chavez. I just literally made a post on TikTok. It was like the note, the text, and I said that my heart goes out to all the victims of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, blah, blah, blah. That's all I said, right? And then men started coming to the page and started telling me to shut the fuck up, y que esto y que el otro. And the thing is, and maybe because I'm ignorant, there was like threads of people going back and forth. So I don't know if because they were arguing with each other that I wasn't getting the alerts, that I have a new comment or algo. I don't even remember if TikTok did that alerts as someone commented. No me acuerdo. So by the time I would once every couple hours me metía, there was hella people fighting in the comments, and I was like, sheesh, okay. And then I think I've talked about this. Someone told me that I was a white liberal to shut the fuck up. And I was like, okay. And then they started going back and forth about Donald Trump, y esto y que el otro. And I'm not saying it went viral, but it had well over 5,000 views and hella comments. But it just got to the point that I was all over the place. And then people were randomly like, y dije, you know what? No, I can control what I can control. And this is just dumb. So apagué the comments and stuff. And I got a really small sample of hate coming towards me. And I know that it wasn't really about my weight, but still. And I was like, this is dumb. But I was like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. Like I said, it was one of my most commented videos besides the ones that I have pinned. So I turned off the comments, and I actually had to sit with that. I was like, damn, this sucks. I can't believe que tengo que apagar los comments because these men are in my, in the, ¿cómo se llama? In the comments and stuff. But here's where the faith piece comes back, and take religion out for a second if you need to. This applies to anyone who believes in something bigger. Obviously, I believe in God. At what point does caring so much about what other people think about you becomes an idolatry? At what point are we giving other people's opinion a power over your life that only God should have? Because that is what I've been sitting with the last couple of weeks. The fear of what strangers might say about my body has been making decisions for me. And when I really look at it in that way, it is not self-protection. That is giving a crusty man on the internet more authority over my calling that God has. And that is something I'm actively working on surrendering to. Because here's the thing, you guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, you're so dramatic, girl. Just do it, ya ni modo. But it's kind of stupid because it's kind of like, I've seen men commenting and being like, who cares? Once you post it on the internet, it's free game. Tú tienes que atenerte las consecuencias y aguantar vara. And I was like, when I was reading the comments, I forgot what it was. It wasn't my post. It was something else. And I was like, why are men like that? And it's crazy because on the TikTok, I reposted this African American girl. She was saying that you can get canceled for being racist, for talking shit, pero que nunca people get canceled for fat shaming women. And I'm like, that's so true. Like, people get mad when a fat woman habla de lo que sea. Y'all, I've seen so many videos of like girls just talking about their makeup routine. Ya viene un tarado. Pinche vieja torta, estás fea, esto y que el otro. I'm like, bro, like, why do you care? Like, ¿por qué te importa like what this girl is doing? And then you see, it's crazy because then you see men like, okay, what would you rather be? Una torta or this or that? And there's a whole bunch of women commenting, I would never want to be a torta. And you're just like, oh my God. And you know something that's pissing me off, que ya estoy viendo more and more again. I have an episode of why Latino culture is so obsessed with fat women. You guys check it out. Pero estoy viendo like that now other races are starting to use the word torta to just talk about fat women in general. And what pisses me off is that a lot of Chicanos started going on other podcasts and talking about women and calling them tortas, because a lot of them who were not Latinos were like, isn't torta like Mexican food? And then they were like, oh no, this is, and now they're teaching them. And now like, I saw a black dude call someone a torta, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? ¿Por qué son tan culeros? ¿Por qué les molesta tanto que a girl is on there just living her life? And I've talked about that, like I said in this episode, about how you see big girls online and they say like, oh, you're so brave for showing up. How do you do it? Esto y que el otro. Why do people don't say that to a skinny woman? Y ahorita acabo de mirar before I hopped on here to record this Mexican guy. I don't know if he's a big time podcaster porque me salió the clip on TikTok. And he was like, las gordas, las gorditas, las tortas, échenle ganas. No se desanimen. Ustedes van a encontrar a alguien que las quiera así como están. And I was like, motherfucker. That pissed me off. I was like, how come you guys don't say that to skinny women? How come you guys don't say, and this isn't me throwing shade, okay? I'm just saying as an example. ¿Por qué no dicen, muchachas flacas, que palos, flautas, échenle ganas que alguien las va a querer así como están de flacas? It's like a backhanded compliment. And then I've noticed too that some girls too, and this is why I'm getting all over the place. It started as Catholicism, ya me estoy regresando para acá. But something too that I've noticed is that like there's a whole bunch of pick-me girls who are fat. Well, I don't take it like personal. I just think it's hella funny, and they're throwing shots at themselves for being fat. And a whole bunch of dudes are like, yeah, that's the type of torta I like that she can make fun of herself and she doesn't take it so seriously. I get that point of view. I get it. But the girls are just coming off as pick-me, saying, you're like, dude, you're making shit worse. You're like, and I don't know, that shit bothers me still. But yeah, let me go back to what I was saying, that like it sucks because I'm fully aware, I mean, that I am letting the future comments, and it's not like I'm in my head and be like, se ve, you guys, like I see it all the time and stuff. Sometimes some people will even see like a fat girl on there who's talking about whatever, and they go straight to the comments. They don't even hear what she's talking about. Que feo, you know? So that's why I'm like, because there are topics that I wanted to talk about. Like, for example, I list about another thing that I try to be careful. And I know you guys are going to be like, dude, you're like a nobody. It's very true. And I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to listen to this. There's 340 something of you who are subscribers to this, and I thank you. There's over 4,000 of you following me on TikTok. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Even if all those 4,000 people don't listen to the podcast, I still apoyan the page and they comment. I appreciate it. I try to be as responsible because I think sometimes there's a thin line between informing the public and chisme, right? Because sometimes you talk about something and people are not aware, and then they start looking and it blows up. And I'm not saying you're responsible in a sense for that topic blowing up, but there are times que es bueno, right? Because it's community awareness, etc. Like, por ejemplo, I don't know if you guys know what's going on con el hijo de Ramón Ayala. That shit's fucking crazy. Like, he's being accused of sexual, what's it called? Like assault or allegate, not assault, ¿cómo se llama? Sexual, I don't remember if it's harassment, no me acuerdo qué. It's pretty crazy. And I wanted to talk about it. But then I was like, well, I don't see like other people like talking about it. Is it porque they don't care? Or is it because a lot of people were also blaming Ramón Ayala and saying that he's complicit because it was the people around him that were accusing Ramón Ayala Jr. of the incidents that happened. So a lot of people were blaming Ramón Ayala too and saying, oh, he's complicit because he knew and he didn't do anything to stop it. So then I'm like, okay, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? And then also too, like, for example, Ashley Gonzalez and what has happened. And I talked about it and I did like a small clip on it and stuff. And a lot of people like también, and this isn't really like chisme in a sense, but like the whole episode of Emma Greed, nobody really knew what was going on. And then I'm like, okay, well, do I talk about it? Do I not talk about it? And then I don't know, because I think I'm trying to be responsible because ¿qué tal, for example, that I had talked about Emma Greed and I did research, right? But maybe let's just say my research wasn't 100% correct. And then I'm like over here, like spreading like, misinformation. And then people, you know what I mean? So I know you guys are going to be like, dude, you're a hella overthink it. But I try to be responsible porque, por ejemplo, let's just say let's just say, for example, this is someone's first time listening to me. And then they go based on what I say and I'm like wrong. People are going to be like, morra pendeja, like no sabe, So yeah. Before I end this episode, I wanted to say something. I know that us Catholics, we get shitted a lot because they say that we pray to statues, que we're only supposed to pray to God, y esto y que el otro. We pray to saints for intercession. We ask them to take our prayers to God directly. There's a lot of Catholics who don't pray the rosary, who don't pray to the saints, and that's completely fine. It's a personal choice. But I will say to that is that, like, it's you just asking your homegirls and homeboys, tías, tíos, que te ayude. It's like asking them, hey, tía, ¿puedes orar por mí? It's kind of the same concept, right? And I did a whole bunch of novenas. You pray a prayer for 9 days. And you ask the saint to take your prayers and take them to God as an intercession. Mine's called Saint Difna. My confirmation saint, look her up, Saint Difna. I novenas for a lot of stuff. And there is one, if you're having a hard time surrendering, and you don't even have to be Catholic, y'all, to do it. There's the surrender prayer every day that especially right now, because I have a lot of ups and downs in my personal life right now. And a lot of stuff with my health and financial too and stuff that I'm trying to work through. I go to adoration. Before I got sick, there was a lot of stuff que no sabía. I didn't even know what adoration was. I don't know qué era grupo de intercesión. Yo no sabía qué era el grupo, what's it called? El grupo, I forgot. See, this is why I need to be a little bit more prepared with what I wanted to talk about that was not on the script. El grupo carismático, there you go. There's cursillos, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And I just hope with this episode, you guys, like, you learned something, or at least you could be like, you know what, I don't like Catholicism, but those are valid points. Or for some of you who left Catholicism and have been thinking about it and you don't know what to do, how to come back, o no sabes, take religion out for a second. I just les recomiendo just to talk to God every single day. You guys would be surprised that sometimes, like, when was it? A couple days ago, I think it was, or maybe even yesterday. I went on my morning walk, and I was crying. I started crying, and I just started talking to God. And I was like, dude, like, well, I didn't call God dude, but I was like, I'm here, this is what's going on. And of course, you see everything and stuff. I was like, I'm trying to surrender, and I think I don't know how. Like, help me. This is what's going on. Y le puedo entregar todo. And oh my gosh, you guys, like, I felt so much better and stuff. I would recommend just get a Bible. For those of you who don't care if it's Catholic or not, just because, let me backtrack. There's Father Mike Schmidt. He has a Bible in a Year podcast. Listen to that on YouTube. You can see it. I recommend, if you're Catholic and if you have an adoration chapel to go, just sit there, whether it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, and just start building your friendship with God again. Si no sabes cómo, that's what I did. And I do that every single day. Before I do anything with this podcast, I always say, guide me. Si hay cosas que no quieres que diga o diga, I forgot, like, enlighten my path. And I want to say something too that might be controversial. A lot of us pray to help us do God's will. Just because we think we're doing God's will doesn't mean we're actually doing it. I think that God just wants us to, like, I can't say it, that we consider him and do our best and what we do, and just include him in our plans. How many times, y'all, do we live in automatic pilot or pilot automatic? And no lo consideramos in anything. And I'm trying to include him in everything, even in the little details. When I'm having my flare-ups and I'm pissed because me frustra un chingo sometimes, you guys, that it's been it's been about 10 years and I still have flare-ups. Y me tengo que acostar and I feel like my day is ruined because I can't do anything else. I'm so nauseous. My stomach hurts, lo que sea. Me acuesto. And then I take a step back and I say, you know what? You know that I don't feel well, and you know that I'm upset. Because I feel like it has been such a long time, and you would think that I would have my emotions more under control. I'm like, but you know what? Te quiero dar gracias because I at least have a place to lay down my head. I at least, whether it works or not, I'm able to take Zofran. Me puedo cobijar, and I know that I can text my mom on her way back home from watching my niece and just be like, hey, Ama, me haces un favor, puedes pasar a la Safeway, me puedes comprar un ginger ale or a 7-Up, me puedes comprar unas galletas saladas or something. I don't feel well. How fortunate I am that I have that. You know, and it's not about comparing who has it worse or who has it better. But let's keep it real a little bit. There's some people que no tienen acceso to anything and they're battling stuff alone. You know, as much as I talk about with my parents and boundaries and how we get on each other's nerves, both sides, me with them with me. You know, tengo apoyo. And I don't take that for lightly, but I think it's sometimes when we're so in our feelings, we're like, ugh. But God is there watching us. There is many different novenas that you could do for different things. Este mes es el mes de la Virgen. For me, there's another one novena that I would really recommend. Es la novela de la Virgen de Desatanudos. In English, it's Our Lady of Undoer or Knots. A la Virgen de la Luz, Virgen de la Nieve. There's so many that when I was unpulling, y'all, like, it was crazy how much la Virgen me estaba hablando. And I'm sorry that, like, if you are Catholic and this is triggering you, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to trigger you. And if you're still listening to this and I appreciate it and you're not Catholic, or you're another denomination and you don't believe in the saints or la Virgen Maria and you're still listening to this, I thank you. Because I try to be open-minded with other stuff. A veces me cuesta, but I still take the time to listen because es bueno aprender. Even if you don't agree with it, you could be like, oh, okay, I see why. And I try to be like that sometimes, aunque me cueste, because I know that everybody practices their faith differently in Semira. I also wanted to say that it's up to us, obviously, para maintain our relationship with God. But don't ever feel like you're not doing enough or you're doing too much. Because I remember that's something that when I first came back to the church, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt bad because I was like, dude, everybody va a la misa, hace esto, daily mass, que las novenas, que the rosary, que esto, que el otro. I'm not saying not to do that stuff, but I would say start with one and then master it. And if you feel like you can, agrega más cosas if you want to, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to, porque también no vayas a hacer las cosas forced. And this is stuff that I've been able to learn because I've had access to priests. I'm actually waiting for a sister to get back to me because we're going to continue spiritual direction. There's a whole bunch of books that I've had that have helped me. But yeah, this is all I want to say about this. I could go in deeper, but I don't think so because I can't believe this is going to be about an hour long. So, homegirls, are you guys still with me? Did I at least make you think or ponder, or do you guys really not care? Regardless, thank you for being here. I know religion is a touchy subject, but in my opinion, I think it's good to have these conversations because sometimes older generations just did not leave room for discussion. And honestly, a lot of them were poorly catechized too. And maybe even more than us, straight old school Catholic where everything was guilt and you're going to hell 10 times, that type of like degree. Some really difficult things were taught and passed down, and it wasn't their fault. There is really no fault in any of this, to be honest. It's just what they knew and what they were given and they passed down to us. I'm not here to have all the answers because clearly I don't. I'm just a First Gen Chicana who came back to her faith through illness, still has questions, still shows up to adoration, and thinks these conversations are worth having out loud. If this episode resonates with you, share it, homegirl. Share it to another homegirl. Don't forget to follow the page on TikTok and Instagram. I don't know how much editing I'm going to do. In all honesty, I think I'm just going to put it up. If you ever need any recommendations of novenas or prayers, etc., not how it sounds, because this has been going on for 10 years, so I do know some stuff, pero tampoco, obviously, no soy un priest or a Catholic, nun or something like that. But let me know through DM, y yo te puedo recommend books. También here, I have a whole bunch. But like I said, start small, reconnect with God, y habla con él que te está esperando. Take, like I said, religion out for a second and just be like, hey, y él sabe por lo que estás pasando. Entrégale your fear, your doubts, your frustration, your anger, your sadness, your happiness. Entrégale todo. Because I know for everybody, especially right now, these times, life is lifing, y'all. No crean that I'm not trying to sound like a know-it-all and stuff, because what I'm telling you guys, that entregárselo, I'm literally, you guys, I'm doing that every single day, especially these last couple of weeks, because it's been pretty hard, you guys, with my health stuff. And trying to make this podcast grow. But also, and this sounds super corny, but es la verdad, let go and let God. I have to have radical acceptance of where I'm at with this podcast, donde estoy y no estoy. My part, God's part, looking for work, what that looks like, what it doesn't look like. And it's a thing that I'm choosing to do every day. Y es bien difícil. Pero God sees everything. And for me, I'm talking for me, it's worth it. But it sí cuesta. It's not easy. Por eso dicen que God calls many and only few follow him. But anyways, that's it. That's all I got. I can't believe this is going to hit about almost an hour. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to me. Y believe it or not, I'm trying to talk a little bit slower because I feel like crying, but I'm not going to because it's hard. No crean que no, but I will catch you guys on the next episode. Bye.